Something is not adding up in Cleveland. And if you've been paying attention, not just to the games, but to the vibes, then you know what I'm talking about. SHEDEUR Sanders, once hyped as the next-gen face of the Browns, is now suddenly quiet, invisible, benched? Not officially. But you'd need a forensic team to find any real involvement in the Browns' recent quarterback planning. He's not getting first-team reps, not running the scout team. He's not even getting mentioned in post-practice interviews. It's like he got Thanos snapped out of the narrative.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And the media? Oh, they're complicit. Radio silence. Or worse, strategic noise. Because while the franchise plays coy, the media machine starts spinning. Sanders needs more development. He's still learning the playbook. He's not NFL ready yet. But let's be honest, those excuses don't make sense anymore. Not when you see how other rookies, less experienced, less composed, less obviously talented, are getting opportunities across the league. This doesn't look like development. This looks like containment. So let's ask the question no one wants to say out loud. Is SHEDEUR Sanders being slowly forced out of Cleveland? Because it sure as hell feels like it. And if this is starting to sound dramatic, good. Because this is dramatic. We're talking about a franchise that has burned through more quarterbacks than some people burn through passwords. A team that hasn't had a steady QB situation in over 2 decades. And now, when they finally have a young, high IQ, mechanically sound, media-savvy quarterback on the roster, they're stalling? Let's talk history for a second. The Browns have a legacy of quarterback disasters so long, it's basically its own tragic Netflix doc. Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield. Do you remember those days? You probably try not to. They were either overhyped, underprepared, or downright sabotaged. Sometimes all three. Now, enter SHEDEUR Sanders. Clean footwork. Calm in the pocket. Son of one of the most respected and polarizing football figures alive. Built for the spotlight. And instead of embracing him, the Browns are treating him like a PR liability with a jersey number. And speaking of jerseys, let's not act like the team doesn't know what they have. SHEDEUR's jersey sales? Flying. He's in the top-selling tier for rookie merch, despite not playing significant minutes. Which tells you one thing very clearly. The Browns like the look of SHEDEUR. They just don't seem to like the idea of him. You see the contradiction, right? They're selling him to fans. They're marketing him quietly, like a collectible action figure they never planned to actually unbox. But when it comes to the field, they'd rather keep him hidden away behind vague developmental plans, while journeyman and backup tier QBs get time under center. What are they so scared of? Because this doesn't feel like coaching. It feels like politics. Let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Internal bias is very, very real in the NFL. And SHEDEUR, like it or not, walks into every room with 2 things: his father's last name and an aura of expectation. And for a franchise with a deep fear of being overshadowed, that might be a problem. It's no secret that Deion Sanders is a powerful figure. When your dad has more charisma than the team owner, suddenly your presence becomes threatening. Not because you're bad, but because you might be too visible, too polarizing, too much of a story they don't fully control. And we're not saying it's jealousy, but we're saying that if you've been a part of a losing organization long enough, sometimes anyone who brings in the light just reminds you how long you've been sitting in the dark. There's also the whole PR tightrope walk happening behind the scenes. The team wants to benefit from SHEDEUR's presence, without fully committing to the risk of actually starting him. Why? Because starting him means accountability. It means if he loses, the team gets blamed for rushing him. If he wins, the narrative gets handed over to the Sanders camp and not the front office. And trust, the Browns hate losing control of the narrative. This is a team that once signed a quarterback in the morning and cut him by dinner because the headlines got too loud. Now, let's throw a little gasoline on this fire. Trade rumors. Because they're floating. Quietly, anonymously, and with all the grace of a whisper campaign. A source close to the organization here, a scout familiar with the team's thinking there. The name being dropped? Miami, as in SHEDEUR to the Dolphins. At first glance, that feels insane. Trade a promising rookie before even testing him? But then again, doesn't it sound exactly like something Cleveland would do? It's the perfect storm. They can say they gave him time. They can point to the depth chart. They can frame it like they're doing right by the player. And they can get rid of the internal pressure cooker he represents, all while flipping him for draft picks or depth. On paper, it sounds like chess. But in reality, it's just history repeating itself. Because this is how the Browns always lose. Not with dramatic meltdowns or explosive scandals, but with quiet self-sabotage. 1,000 little paper cuts until the opportunity bleeds out completely. And fans see it. Oh, they see it clear as day. You can't gaslight a fan base that's been through 20 years of rotating quarterbacks and front office musical chairs. They've learned to spot the warning signs. And right now, the warning signs are glowing like the scoreboard after a 42-3 loss. So what happens next? That depends on how long SHEDEUR stays quiet. Because he's been classy. He's been patient. He hasn't pulled a Manziel, hasn't subtweeted, hasn't lashed out. But he's not dumb. He sees the media spin. He hears the locker room whispers. He knows the difference between development and marginalization. And if this continues, he's either going to demand a chance or demand a trade. And when that moment comes, the Browns will have a choice. Back your future, or once again bury your potential. Honestly, it's infuriating to watch. Because SHEDEUR didn't ask for a shortcut. He didn't come in demanding to be the starter. All he's asked for is a fair shot, an honest evaluation, the kind of opportunity you'd think any losing franchise would kill for. But in Cleveland, the culture is built different, and not in a good way. The truth is, they don't know what to do with promise. They don't know how to nurture potential. They only know how to chase fixes, not build foundations. And until that changes, no quarterback, not even one with the last name Sanders, stands a real chance of lasting. So yeah, maybe SHEDEUR's being kept around for the merch. Maybe he's being dangled for a trade. Or maybe they're just scared of what happens if he actually gets on the field and outshines their plan. Whatever the reason, one thing is clear. This is not how you develop a franchise quarterback. This is how you lose one. So what do you think? Is SHEDEUR being quietly forced out? Or is this just another slow-motion Browns disaster that hasn't finished collapsing yet? Drop a comment, subscribe for more chaos, and stay tuned. Because if there's one thing we know about the Browns, it's that no matter how bad things look, they can always get worse. You think we've hit the bottom of the SHEDEUR Sanders, Cleveland Browns saga? Oh no. We haven't even opened the weird drawer yet, the one filled with passive-aggressive play calling, front office deflections, and just enough plausible deniability to make you scream into your foam finger. Because here's the latest plot twist. The Browns might not be officially forcing SHEDEUR out, but they're absolutely engaging in what we like to call football gaslighting. You know what I'm talking about. It's when the team pretends everything is fine on the surface. He's developing. We love his work ethic. He's got a bright future. But their actual behavior tells a very different story. The guy gets minimal snaps, zero spotlight, and every media interaction is carefully choreographed to downplay his role. It's the classic, we're not ignoring you, we're just strategically not using you. And don't even get me started on the playbook stuff. Word out of training camp is that SHEDEUR's reps, when he does get them, are stripped down, watered down, vanilla ice cream versions of the real offense. No motion, no complexity, just a bland 7-on-7 drill set that wouldn't even challenge a high school starter. And that's not just about keeping things simple for a rookie. That's about control. Because what happens if you do hand SHEDEUR the full arsenal and he excels? Then the fans start asking real questions. Then the veterans start whispering. Then that tidy little quarterback hierarchy the Browns love so much, gone. So instead, they give him the baby food version of the offense, and then turn around and say, see, he's not ready yet. Gas. Light. ING. Let's also talk about the media scrubbing. If you've been tracking Browns coverage this season, And let's be real, if you're still watching this video, you definitely have. You'll notice how every time SHEDEUR's name comes up, it's immediately followed by a qualifying statement. He's got potential, but. He's athletic, but. He's growing, but. That little but is doing so much work. And it's not just about football. It's about optics. It's about shifting the focus away from what he can do and toward what he supposedly lacks. It's subtle, intentional, death by 1,000 cautious compliments. And if you're a young quarterback trying to earn respect in the league, this is the kind of media framing that buries your momentum before it ever starts. You're not just battling cornerbacks, you're battling perception. And perception is poison, especially in Cleveland. Let's pivot to something else that's gone weirdly under the radar: the locker room dynamics. We've heard whispers, nothing confirmed, of course, because nobody in that building wants to go on record. But there's been a low-level frost settling around SHEDEUR. Not hostility, not full-blown drama, but just enough emotional distance to make it clear. You're not really one of us yet. Is it because of the hype? The name? The fan attention? Maybe all of it. Because in the NFL, the moment you start to stand out, without first paying your dues, you become a threat. And teams that are used to losing, they cling to structure, even when it's built on sand. So when someone comes in, disrupts that power balance, and doesn't follow the unwritten rules, even if they're doing everything right, working hard, staying humble, showing up, people still find a way to resent them. It's not about what SHEDEUR's done. It's about what he represents. A possible future, a potential new identity, a fresh start. And for some folks in that building, that's terrifying. Because a fresh start means admitting the old plans failed. That maybe the guys you already anointed aren't the ones. And that kind of self-awareness? Not exactly the Browns' strong suit. Now let's talk legacy damage. Because here's the thing, if the Browns fumble this, if they mishandle SHEDEUR Sanders the same way they've mishandled basically every quarterback since 1999, they don't just lose a player. They lose credibility. Around the league, people are watching. Other franchises. Other young stars. Agents. You think the next big-name prospect is going to want to land in Cleveland after seeing this slow-motion sabotage? You think college coaches are going to recommend the Browns as a great landing spot for their top-tier guys? Absolutely not. If this turns into another cautionary tale, the Browns don't just hurt themselves now, they torch their long-term brand. Again. And that's what's so insane. Because they've been here before. They've already had the top picks. Already had the clean slate QBs. And every time, they let it rot from the inside. Whether it was lack of support, bad coaching hires, chaotic ownership, or just plain stubbornness, the result was always the same. Squandered talent, wasted years, and another jersey added to that cursed wall of quarterback names. So now, here comes SHEDEUR. And they have a chance, one real chance, to finally get it right. A smart, focused, coachable quarterback. A guy with NFL bloodlines, media training, and an actual sense of composure. And instead of building around him, they're acting like he's an accessory, a novelty, a long-term experiment to be stashed in storage. It's maddening, and yet somehow so on brand. Because this isn't just about bad decisions. It's about fear of success. Yeah, I said it. Some organizations don't know how to handle progress. It terrifies them. Progress means change. Change means discomfort. Discomfort means accountability. And the Browns, God love 'em, have made an art form out of avoiding accountability. They'd rather keep running in circles than admit it's time to actually break the cycle. And look, maybe SHEDEUR isn't ready to start tomorrow. Maybe he does need time to grow. That's fine. Totally fair. But the way you handle a developmental player is not by ghosting him. Not by leaking trade rumors and feeding vague quotes to beat reporters. Not by keeping him off the scout team while backup caliber QBs get airtime. That's not development. That's exile. And the scariest part? This might be strategic. Think about it. If you're the front office, and you know you're going to ship him out eventually, wouldn't you want to kill the hype first? Wouldn't you want to deflate his market value, slow the media train, and reframe him as a project so you don't get roasted when you trade him for a third-round pick? It's disgusting. but not unrealistic. Because in the NFL, managing public perception is just as important as managing the cap sheet. And the Browns? They're doing just enough to say they're committed to his future, while doing exactly enough to ensure he never gets to show it. Classic. So where does this all go? Well, here's the prediction. SHEDEUR's silence won't last forever. At some point, the whispers will become headlines. The fans will get louder. The Sanders camp, yeah, that camp, might start speaking up. And the Browns? They'll be backed into a corner. They'll either have to play him or move him. And when that moment comes, it's going to say everything about who this team really is. Are they finally ready to build something real? Or are they just buying time while setting the future on fire? We'll see. But one thing's for sure. If they let SHEDEUR Sanders slip through their fingers without ever giving him a real shot, they won't just regret it. They'll deserve the downfall. If you thought this whole SHEDEUR Sanders saga was just a case of rookie patience or quarterback development, then I hate to break it to you, but you've been watching the wrong game. Because what's going down in Cleveland right now, it's not a player problem. It's not even a coaching problem. It's a culture problem. And not in that buzzwordy, motivational poster kind of way. I mean deep-rooted, system-level rot that's been fermenting under this franchise for years. What we're watching with SHEDEUR isn't just another misstep. It's a symptom of something Cleveland has never been able to fix, no matter how many GMs they swap out or quarterbacks they draft. Let's talk about identity. Who are the Cleveland Browns, really? Because right now, it feels like a team with an identity crisis. One foot stuck in the tough, blue-collar, defense-first past, and the other trying to dance its way into a modern, media-savvy, quarterback-driven future. You can't have it both ways. You can't pretend to be a forward-thinking organization and then sideline the most modern, marketable, high-upside player on your roster just because he doesn't fit your 2003 style template of what a gritty QB should look like. You can't post glossy, slow-motion practice highlights of SHEDEUR on Instagram while giving him clipboard duty in real life. And you definitely can't say you're building for the future when every decision you make feels like it's terrified of change. So why are they doing it? Why are they squandering what should have been one of their brightest stories in years? Here's a theory. They're scared to be wrong. The Browns have made so many bad quarterback decisions over the years that now they're paralyzed, terrified of choosing wrong again. So instead of committing to someone like SHEDEUR, they just freeze, wait, stall, overthink. Because the second they fully back him, they own that decision. And if it fails, it's their failure. But if they leave him on ice indefinitely, if they float trade rumors and talk about taking time, they never have to admit anything. It's all just part of the process. Safe, cowardly, familiar. And that indecision, that unwillingness to take a real swing, that's the actual reason this franchise keeps losing. Not because of bad luck, not because of injuries, but because when push comes to shove, the Browns always choose comfort over courage. And SHEDEUR? He's not a comfort pick. He's a challenge to their system, a disruptor, a mirror held up to the organization saying, hey, what if we actually tried something new? And they hate that. Because new means uncertain. Uncertain means risk. Risk means accountability. And accountability is where this front office taps out. Let's dig even deeper. Because this isn't just about internal fear. It's about external pressure, too. Don't think for a second the league isn't watching how Cleveland handles SHEDEUR. The league office, the sponsors, the networks, all of them see the name Sanders and think ratings, engagement, revenue. Deion's son in the NFL? That's prime, pun fully intended, TV. Now, imagine you're Cleveland. You know you've got a quarterback who could be a storyline magnet. You know you could draw attention, positive attention, for once. And instead of leaning in, you shut the blinds? That doesn't just look like incompetence. It looks defiant. Almost like they're saying, we don't want to be part of that narrative. Why? Because to fully embrace SHEDEUR, they'd have to embrace what comes with him. Flash, swagger, attention, criticism, scrutiny. They'd have to acknowledge the Sanders brand, the legacy, the boldness. And that's just not what this franchise is built for. The Browns don't know how to handle big personalities. They barely know how to handle competent ones. And SHEDEUR? He's not just a guy who throws a football. He's a brand in the making, a media figure, a symbol of the future of the league, a league that's becoming increasingly about storytelling, visibility, and cultural crossover. You think Cleveland's ready for that? Let's be real. They're still trying to run this franchise like it's 1985. Hard-nosed, keep your head down, talk with your pad stuff. The kind of culture that sees emotional intelligence as weakness and confidence as arrogance. So when SHEDEUR walks in prepared, polished, unapologetically himself, they don't know what to do with that. He doesn't fit their mold. So instead of expanding the mold, they shrink his role. It's control. Plain and simple. And here's the kicker. That kind of control never works long-term. Because eventually, the dam breaks. Eventually, SHEDEUR is going to speak. Maybe not through a press conference. Maybe not even directly. But through body language. Through silence. Through social media. Or better yet, through leaving. Because let's talk about that scenario. Let's really go there. What if SHEDEUR Sanders asks out? What if this goes from awkward to unfixable? You know what happens then? Cleveland loses everything. The potential, the marketability, the fan excitement, the credibility. And even worse, they look like the exact thing everyone already suspects they are. A franchise that doesn't know how to handle talent unless it fits in a little beige box labeled safe. Now picture him in another uniform. Maybe Miami, maybe Atlanta. Somewhere fast, young, exciting. And suddenly SHEDEUR's out there, thriving, throwing dimes on primetime, mic'd up, going viral every week. And Cleveland? Sitting there holding a 6th-round pick and a press release no one reads. They will never live that down. But they don't seem to care. Because right now, this team is actively fumbling an opportunity most franchises would kill for. And they're doing it with the same smug, clueless energy they've had for the past 2 decades. Like they don't even realize they're blowing it until it's already gone. So here's your moment, Browns. It's not about saving face. It's about saving your future. Because SHEDEUR Sanders is more than just a quarterback prospect. He's a cultural pivot point. A symbol of whether you're ready to be part of what's next in the NFL, or just another footnote in what's already over. You've already burned through every other archetype, scrappy journeyman, cannon-armed busts, overhyped draft picks. You've tried everything except supporting a guy who actually checks all the boxes, on and off the field. And now you're about to run him out of town. For what? Another placeholder? Another 3-interception Sunday, and a coach swearing, "We'll look at the tape"? Enough. The excuses are tired. The silence is suspicious. And the longer this drags on, the more obvious it becomes. You're not developing SHEDEUR Sanders. You're burying him. And if you let it continue, the only thing you'll be developing is another chapter in your tragic little quarterback memoir. One more star who got away. One more what if for the timeline. So go ahead. Keep slow playing. Keep leaking. Keep pretending this isn't intentional. But when SHEDEUR leaves, and let's be honest, it's headed that way, you better be ready for what comes next. Because this time, it won't just be on him. It'll be on you. Now drop your thoughts below, because we want to hear it. Is this sabotage or just stupidity? A strategic misfire or an ego problem behind closed doors? And if you're still watching, hit that subscribe button. Because something tells me this saga is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning.